From Washington, D.C. to the heart of America, welcome to Mark Alford's America. I'm freshman Congressman Mark Alford from Missouri, and I believe in America. I believe in you, and most importantly, I believe that our greatest days are still ahead. You know, each week we take you behind the scenes to share the stories, the news, the legislation that impact our great nation. We also introduce you to the folks I get the chance of working with to help shape our state and our great nation. One of those remarkable individuals is Governor Mike Parson. From his time serving in the U.S. Army to his days as Polk County Sheriff, serving in both chambers of the Missouri Legislature, and serving as Missouri's Lieutenant Governor, and now as Missouri's 57th Governor, Mike's dedication to serving others has never wavered. Under Governor Parson's leadership, Missouri has achieved a thriving economy, record low unemployment, wage growth, and new jobs through strategic public-private partnerships, and much of it through a lot of crisis over the last couple of years, COVID being one of them. His focus on infrastructure and workforce development has really made a historic impact, including the $2.8 billion commitment to expand the I-70 corridor, which is already underway, paving the way for even greater opportunities for Missourians. Today, we are in his office, actually, in downtown Kansas City, not Jeff City. We're honored to be at the desk of the governor of the great state of Missouri, Mike Parson. Sir, good to be here. I didn't know you had an office in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah. Well, welcome to the office. The governor's office in Kansas City, and it's always great to be in Kansas City. And thank you for having me on today, Mark. But I am going to say one thing.
What's that?
You kind of introduced yourself as a freshman congressman. I think you bypassed the rookie status right now. You're doing a lot of great things up there, and we're proud of you.
Hopefully I get reelected.
And you get reelected because you got a lot more work to do.
I do, and it's an honor serving. What made you want to serve?
You know, I think it really goes back to the patriotism I have for this country, how I grew up with my mom and dad, coming from a very humble beginning. I understand the importance of the flag, the Pledge of Allegiance, and how I grew up working hard, treating people with respect.
Your peers were sharecroppers.
Yeah, they were. We didn't really own a home until I was about 11 years old. We worked on other people's farms or lived on their farms, working the land. And, we just all worked hard. In the world of material things, we had very little, but we had everything.
And you didn't really know you didn't have a lot.
Right? It was just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Everybody just helped each other out. I mean, if somebody was a little short on something, you just helped them out. If they needed a little help, you went to work for them. If they're short on food, you give them a little food. That's the way I grew up. And that's the America that I believe in so dearly, that our jobs to take care of one another. And I think one of the greatest turning points for me is when I served in the United States Army and realized when you wear the uniform of the military, you soon learn it's never about you. It's about all the people that worked before you and the sacrifices they made to give you them.
What made you decide to sign up for the Army?
I just trying to figure out life in general. I definitely was going in the wrong direction a few times, to be right honest about it. If you don't know the truth about it, it's in my bio. If you want to read the bio, but you got to buy the book to find out what I did wrong. For the listening audience, but I made some mistakes when I was younger, and I thought, okay, I want to join the Army. I want to serve my country. I remember my uncle being a decorated veteran in World War II. He received several Purple Hearts, actually, that he did. And I just remember that service, and I thought, okay, maybe this is where my life is headed. And then I'm a firm believer there's a purpose for everything we do. And that time in the United States Army, I would not be sitting here with you as governor of the state of Missouri if I hadn't served my country.
Why is that?
Because I believe in patriotism. I believe in protecting this country. I believe in what our structure is in this country, what the Constitution is, what the President of the United States means, Commander-in-Chief, what he is supposed to do at that level to make sure that every country in the world knows that we have one of the most powerful United States military forces in the world. And to be part of that and understand you're a part of protecting people back home. The people can't protect themselves. I mean, the one function that you guys have in government at Washington, D.C., and I'll stress this, is to protect the citizens of our country. It is the one thing the federal government is supposed to do. And I was just a firm believer in that. When you're in the military, I was sent overseas twice. There's one thing you learn in life. You don't really care about all the political craziness that we go through today when you're in a foxhole.
Mm-hmm.
You just want somebody in a foxhole doing their job. You don't care where they come from, how they talk, what the color of their skin is.
The armed forces right now in the recruitment crisis that we face in America, only 9% of Americans' young people right now have any interest in joining the military. I am in contact, our offices, with parents and grandparents who are veterans who are discouraging their children. What do you think the solution is to turn that around, to get young people to realize that our country is worth fighting for and possibly dying for?
You will trust is a big factor, and that trust is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, which is the president of the United States. If you don't trust him to do his job, you can't trust him to protect you and the military forces. Look, people join the military because they believe there's a cause, in fact, that you are really going to protect America. You're going to protect what we were given to us by our parents, by our grandfathers. This is what people serve the country for. But when you feel like that the government does not have your back, you're not going to want to go in the military. All the things you've seen over the last 4 or 5 years is just insane for you to think somebody's going to join the military when they go through all these political cleanliness of what people want out of somebody. You're a soldier. You were sent in there to be a soldier, to train and be prepared to fight and make a sacrifice that most people don't want to make.
And then when you consider the factor, the way Joe Biden, the president, pulled out of Afghanistan the way he did, led to really a collapse of our reputation and respect on the world stage. The incursion, the war in Ukraine by Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping breathing down the neck of Taiwan, all this can be laid at the feet of Joe Biden.
Let me tell you something, Mark. One of the toughest days I had as governor, and I've had several. I've been to officers' funerals, I've been to military funerals. But when I stood in the tarmac in St. Louis, when they brought the body of Corporal Schmidt back, and I watched that, it seemed like an eternity unloading that casket off that plane. I will never forgive what the President of the United States and that administration did. Those people should have never died. They give their lives for something they shouldn't give their lives for. Terrible decisions, military decisions, whoever was involved in that should be dismissed, should be out of it.
But there was no accountability for that.
Never been done to this day. We literally told the enemy exactly what we're going to do. I mean, we were the easiest target in the world. But I will tell you, dealing with his mom and dad, talking with them and the family, it's just like, it's heart-wrenching if you have to go through that as governor. But deep down in your heart, it didn't have to be that way. That's what's so tough about that. That should have never happened.
And thank goodness our speaker, Mike Johnson, came forward in the rotunda. I was there last month as it should have been the president apologizing. Here we have the Speaker of the House apologizing to these 13 families. We're sorry from our nation that we basically sacrificed your young men and women.
You just threw them out to die. Well, yeah, we didn't give them a chance. We literally did not give them a chance. We actually told some of the most ruthless people in the world that hates America, and you basically said, we're going to put these soldiers out here today. All you got to do is come get them. And that's what we did. The reality was we didn't protect them. We didn't protect citizens. We didn't protect people that supported us. We didn't support Americans. That's why when you talk about recruiting, why people don't want to join the armed forces. Because does the president, does the administration, do they really have my back? Or are they just sending me in these conflicts and just saying whatever it takes, if they have sacrificed my life, we're just going to take your life and we're just call you, hey, that's part of it. So sad.
And then the president, when their bodies come home to the Washington area, he's checking his watch as their bodies come off.
It was a total disrespect for those men and women. So many people sacrificed everything for this country. And many times when they had to, when it was also a difficult situation, Normandy comes to mind, things like that. These guys did not have photos in their lives. It was just terrible decisions on a presidential administration with Joe Biden and the millers of the military. And all they cared about was publicity, being public publicity, trying to get just sound bites for being the ones we're moving out of a war with no safety to the troops on the ground. Was never in their thought process.
So you get out of the Army, and then you get on the sheriff's force there in Polk County, and you decide to run for sheriff. Was that your first elected office?
It was my first elected office. And I will tell a lot of people, a lot of times when I talk to them, it's one of the most important offices I ever had. And I know governor's a big deal. I get that. Yours a big deal as a congressman. But I always think the reason that was always so special to me, that was the people that knew me best. That was the people we went to church with, we went to grocery stores with, our kids grew up with, and they trust you to be the sheriff of that county to protect them. And it has always something that stuck with me.
We're talking with Governor Mike Parson, the 57th governor of the great state of Missouri. We'll be back in just a bit. When we come back, we're going to talk about how he got into the governorship. That's an interesting story if you don't know that one. But also some of the toughest decisions he's had to make. And what will he miss most when he leaves office? You're listening to Mark Alford's America. Stay with us. Welcome back to Mark Alford's America, where we take you behind the scenes and let you meet some of the great folks we work with day in and day out to make our nation great and to make our state great. Today, we're in the downtown Kansas City office of Governor Mike Parson. So you get out of the Army and you get to be sheriff of Polk County. What made you decide to run for the state legislature office?
You know, I've been in law enforcement 22 years, and I'd seen a lot of things. I worked a lot of homicide cases. I worked a lot of major cases. I just felt like it was a kind of a career time for me to change. And I wasn't really planning on going to Jeff City. I was actually with some friends one time, and one of them was term limited out when term limits were starting coming back. And he was termed out, and they asked me what I was going to do. And he says, well, you need to run for my office or for my job. And that's how it all started. And I went home and explained to the wife and the kids that, hey, I may do this.
What did Teresa say?
She said, well, what is it you're going to do, and how long are you going to be gone, and how much does it pay? The things wives ask.
Right.
And but she was fully supportive, and that's how I got involved in the state politics.
And you get to the Senate. How did you end up becoming lieutenant governor?
Well, actually, the story be told, I was really frustrated at the time. Much like you say, you're throwing things on the TV when you seen the Afghanistan withdrawal. Actually, Tom's wife had committed suicide during that time, which is just an unfortunate thing. But there was a lot of things that would be done in the political arena with consultants and different people were taking things I felt too far about making up stories and trying really to deface somebody that's worked their entire lifetime on their character and their honor. And all of a sudden we try to tear that down sometimes in the political arena. I was frustrated with that. So I said, we need to change things. And actually, I said I was going to run for governor. Before I did anything, and I run for governor, and then thank goodness some people around me says, look, we love you, but you can't win the governor's race. So, but you may think about the lieutenant governor's race. So that's how I become a lieutenant governor of the state of Missouri. And as you know, you have to work hard at statewide elections, and you got to make sure people go out there and believe in you, just like people in Polk County believed in me to be sheriff.
I'm not going to relive the whole Governor Greitens episode. I think people know what happened there. How did that all come about, that you knew that he was resigning the governorship and that you would be the 57th governor?
That whole saga went on for about a year, and there was so much disinformation, so much information come out. We didn't know what he was going to do, and I really didn't either. I just went ahead doing my job. But really, the call come from the colonel then at the Highway Patrol says, hey, the governor's going to resign, and we're going to be sending some people down, and you need to come back to Jeff City. So it was basically about a 48-hour time period by the time I got that call until I was sworn in as the 57th governor. So, again, you go back to life experiences and what you've done through your life, and you have to understand there's a purpose for things that happen to us sometimes. And I never was wanting to be governor per se. It happened, but I felt like I had to be prepared for it. And I feel like that purpose through God had me prepared for that moment more than I even knew. And we went in to be the 57th governor of the state of Missouri, and we tried to make sure that we settled things down a little bit, right the ship, and we made sure we put Missourians first.
When you got into the governor's office there in the Capitol, which is a beautiful office, by the way, and you sit down for the first time, you did have to calm things down after what happened to Greitens. You had to bring our state together, but there was also important business at hand. What was the toughest thing you had to battle at that time?
Well, the inside story of that is the vast majority of people in the governor's office left. There was no general counsel. There was no legislative team. There was no communications team. You went from office to office with the exception of 3 or 4 people. It was just looked like a ghost town. Just looked like everybody left. And you really find, okay, what do we do here? What is the first step you do? Who do I need to call in here? Who do I need to talk to, such as emergency management, law enforcement, in case something did happen?
How did you know what to do, though?
Well, I think that comes back with experience being a sheriff. What happens if something seriously happens? Who's the people you're going to need right off the bat? Law enforcement. You're going to need emergency if you have a tornado, a flood, or whatever. Those were the things. I was very fortunate to have a chief of staff, Aaron Willard, that had a lot of experience in that. He had actually written a little bit of a protocol, what we're going to do the first 24 hours, what we're going to do the first 48 hours, and for a week and on out 30 days. The point of it is we were not expecting everybody just to leave. And then all of a sudden the phones start ringing and everything. And then because the governor's office never stops, Mark. It goes on every day of the week. Phones ring 24 hours a day, and you have to be prepared for that all the time. So it was a little bit of a lonely feeling at first, to be right honest about it. But I got to say this on your show for your listening audience. I literally called people. Again, Teresa, my staff was on a Friday. I got sworn in. I was calling people Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, asking them to come to work at the governor's office. And like most people, it says, okay, when do you want to come to work? like now. I mean, and I said, I'll call your boss, I'll do whatever. But people time and time again answered that call because they wanted to be public servants to help me out at a time at the most critical need for the people of the state of Missouri. I'll never forget those people that answered that call.
When you look back over the years that you've been governor, what do you think's been your greatest accomplishment? And not just you, but your team. Because I know as well as anyone, it is the team that gets it done. You're just out in front. Your name's on the door.
Yeah, look, Mark, I've had some talented people around me all through the governor's office. I will never be able to thank them enough. They're young, they're articulate, they're smart, and they believe what I believe. So first of all, it's never about being the best governor. It'll never be about being the best congressman for you. It'll be about making people around you better. And that's what true leaders do, and that's what I tried to do. I think on the accomplishment side of it, we just went out there, for me and Teresa, and this is on the personal side, we really lived the American dream. You've got a glimpse of it today on the show, but we really have, coming from a little bit of nothing to sit in the highest office in the state of Missouri. And the only thing we really care about is those next generations to have the same opportunities we've had. That's why we go to work every day. I want your kids, my kids, our grandkids to be able to say, you know, old Governor Parson made this through hard knocks. So if he did it, I can do it. And I want people to believe in the system, and I want to make a child's life better. I want them to get an education. I want to have an opportunity to job. I don't care what job people have. I really don't. I don't get hung up on that stuff. You know, if you want to be a laborer, be a laborer. Just make the best.
In fact, the First Lady's been really active in that, trying to get more young people educated in the trades. Not everyone's suited for college, and you guys have really made a lot of inroads in developing our workforce in Missouri.
Oh, there's no question. That's been a priority. It's been a successful priority. Look, when we made infrastructure and workforce development our two main priorities, those are not Democrat, those are not Republican issues. Those are just things everybody wants. Everybody wants a chance at a good job. They want to have a good highway system. They want good airports. They want to have broadband. They want to have all the things we all talk about all the time. We delivered. You know, we did what people wanted, and we said that's what we're going to do. There is no more priorities other than workforce development, infrastructure.
Let's talk about some of the toughest decisions you've made. As a governor, I cannot imagine the things that come across your desk, executions that are pending, commutations that are being asked for, pardons that are being asked for. How do you make those decisions? Because it's your decision at the end of the day, whether someone goes free or someone dies in an execution.
Yeah. Let's talk about capital punishment first. You know, I'm a law enforcement guy. I'm a firm believer in capital punishment. I believe that, and always have. But I will tell you, it is totally different when it comes to your desk, and you're the one who decides whether somebody lives or dies. And you have the statutes, and you understand how important that is, but one of the most difficult decisions you have to make is you're the one that has to say that for that execution to happen. I think no matter who you are, how tough you may think you are or not, it is always something that wears on you. Because you're ultimately making that decision.
So how do you make that? Is a lot of prayer go into that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, faith comes into it. Look, you can't do this job without faith, Mark. I'm just telling you right now. You put somebody here that's not a faithful person, they're gonna fail miserably. But you go back to faith. You go back to what it is you believe. You get all the information you can. You're trying to look at those cases, and most of them are old case files. And you look at the crime, which a lot of people in today's world, they want to talk about the execution itself. But you need to also talk about the victims of that crime, what those families went through, and how brutal they were. The vast majority of people that gets to an execution stage are bad people. They made terrible, terrible decisions, and it was a pretty brutal scene for that to happen. But you have to make that decision. It's like I said, it's never easy.
We're about out of time, Governor Parson. What do you love most about America?
I just love who we are. I love what we stand for. I mean, when that flag flies out in the air and I see it, and it just reminds me of America, our freedoms, you know, the opportunities that we have in life. Nobody else has the opportunities we have, you know, and I think it's our Constitution, our life are based on faith and freedom. That's it. That's how everything was written in the beginning. Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights. All of our government was based on faith, whether we argue that all days today. But being American, being a soldier, being a sheriff, being a governor, I mean, I've lived such a patriotic life for standing up to all those things I believe in doing. and making the sacrifices to do them. I'm honored every day and humbled every day to do what I do.
I could almost do a Joe Rogan and go 3 hours with you. You're a fascinating person to talk with, but we don't have that much time. Every speech that I've heard you do over the last couple of years, especially since I've been in the political world, I've heard a lot of speeches, and you always end every speech with something in particular. Can you end our broadcast today with that?
Well, it's always an honor to be the 57th governor of the great state of Missouri. God bless you, God bless Missouri, and God bless the United States of America.
Governor, God bless you and Teresa.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thanks for having me on.